Say no
to Geppetto pot farmers.
Say no
to Geppetto pot farmers.
Say no
to Geppetto bot farmers.
Say no
to Geppetto bot farmers.
Look at those shirts. Geppetto Bot Farm.
We're sick of it, and we're saying no.
We're done. We're done with the whole situation. The bot farms, Geppetto, it's over.
You guys,
no,
you have real
we're
issues
saying no,
too.
and we've had enough of your people emailing us, texting us. You're bot farmers, and we hate you.
Exactly.
Fine. We don't need a bot farm
The good
anymore.
news was you got your moment in the sun, which was +1. We did that the first game of the year. That's over with now. Part C, I gotta say, what a needle thread on Monday night, baby.
Wow. Yes.
Let's go.
Wow.
Woo!
Because
Yeah,
I had a
that's a good
feeling,
thing.
Parts. I had a feeling. I have no idea why that you were buying in.
I was.
To Danny Dimes, and you almost did it. I had to talk you out of it.
Well,
Bartsy, what a call.
It's a great call.
We might not lose another game. We might not lose another game.
It's a great call.
That
So
was
you
a
guys,
TSN turning point.
That's
you got
exactly
your T-shirts in there. It's like
Wow.
LeBron and Bronny. Look
One
at
more
this,
time.
LeBron and
Say
Bronny.
no
There
to
it is.
Geppetto bot farmers.
So O-Dog's Bronny got his 2 points last
That's
night.
what he got with the Monday Nighter. Oh, God, it's 2 points.
I'm Brawny Dog. I'm Brawny Dog.
You're Bronny Dog. And what a scene. You see the Cavs let him cut the net down. They got smoked last night. The Lakers got crushed.
It's embarrassing.
It's
isn't
embarrassing.
it?
Yeah,
Like-
he did go over the number, though. We talked about it. The total was 1.5. I guess you got to
I
hammer the
know,
over.
but-
Bronny hit the over last night.
But to act like he was a contest winner, that's ridiculous.
I know.
You
Takes the
that's-
net. He cuts the net down like it's Final Four. Dude, that's reserved for if you win the national championship.
Are you being serious? He cut
Yes.
down the net?
Yes.
That's that there's pictures circulating that the Cavs let him cut the net down. That
I
he
thought that
scored.
was a joke. You know how things get doctored.
Okay,
with
I hope
AI
you're
and
right.
stuff.
You got. I must be getting duped here because
Yeah,
you're right.
You're getting
Nichols.
duped, man. That's
That
insane.
can't be serious.
I-
It can't be, but it feels like it could be. But it can't be.
If it's okay, we need to fact check that. If that's the truth, that's the most insane thing ever.
It can't.
Cutting
I
the
must
net
be
down.
getting duped. Someone sent that to me today, and I have to be getting duped.
I hope
That's
so.
a bot farm. I got bot farmed
Yeah.
by somebody suggesting
You deserve
that would
it.
happen. I guess I do,
So-
but
Can
what do you got?
Can I do a small change up here? A little baseball question. I heard you guys talking about it yesterday, about the Yankee fan, and maybe you can talk me off the ledge here, because I couldn't be more on the other side of this. I thought that whole thing with Mookie Betts was awesome. The entire thing from start to finish. I sit here and I'm like, man, you want to talk about as a player, okay, going in and like having a good home building. These guys are so bought in that in the moment that they're called, they go in and try and open the man's glove up and rip the ball out. I don't know if you saw this, but Gronk said he
let
knows the
me
guy.
explain
Yeah, Gronk
to you
knows
the
him. This is
reason why
boy.
you like this. You played a sport for a living where you could score a touchdown and then jump into the crowd and have people pour beers on you and love it.
And love it.
Not every sport is like
I
that.
thought it was the coolest moment of the MLB playoffs. I didn't. Granted, I saw some people online being like, "This was assault." I'm like,
ridiculous.
"This is ridiculous." Mookie Betts afterwards, tip my cap to that guy. I don't know if you saw the interview. He was like, "Man, it's irrelevant. Like we lost. I'm fine." The guy grabbed my wrist. This is a pro athlete. It's not like he tried to rip his arm off. Okay.
Right.
I thought it was a cool moment, and maybe, just maybe, Jays fans should try that next year.
Well, listen, the Jays fans, there was a Jay fan back in 16, the wild card, threw a beer. Now, this is different.
Kenny
Throwing
Pagan.
stuff on the field. Ken
That's our
Pagan,
buddy.
friend of the show. Listen, Kenny, it was a slip up. It was a bad scene at the time, but it's all good.
You
Complete
remember that, Hayes?
overreaction.
They had a search out for
Dude,
that.
there
They
was
had
a
a search.
manhunt
It
for
was
Ken
they
Pagan.
circled him on the front cover of the Toronto Sun or
They
whatever. It's
offered
like,
up a bounty.
Who is this guy? We're like,
They offered up a bounty. Whoever finds this guy gets paid, and then it turns out he worked for the company. He worked for Sun Media.
Again, what it brought me back to, and this is somewhat of a shot at Seattle right now, but the current state of the Seahawks fans are not what it was 10 years ago. Before we won, ticket prices were much lower, and the building was much, much, much louder than it is now. Still a very loud building.
Gone corporate?
Yes, very corporate. Even to the point of Canada, I had obviously some ties with Seahawks Canada, my early years, Seahawks Canada was a big ordeal. They'd be like, hey, we want to get all these Vancouver fans down. Let's try and get into that market. Once we started winning, for a long time, they got rid of Seahawks Canada. Like, oh, we don't need these guys anymore, which I digress. That was annoying. But I remember my college roommate at the time was a tight end for the Niners. His name was Vance McDonald. Ended up going to the Steelers for a bit. But Vance told me when they showed up for the NFC Championship game in their hotel downtown Seattle, there's a group of fans there waiting for them to try and shake their bus. Like, it's all hands on deck. This is the old school Seahawk days where you come to Seattle, you're playing this team, but you're playing the fans. You're playing the whole city. When we won that game, this is the NFC Championship, would have been January of 2014. 2 hours after the game, I left the stadium. People were hanging out of trees outside. It wasn't just that we won. The whole city won. New York last night, granted, they obviously blew the game, but when Judge hit that dinger and then Chisholm went back-to-back.
Epic.
That whole atmosphere, I wish every barn was like that, including hockey. You look at the Leafs, they got some of the most passionate fans of all time. Shout out to my dad in Windsor, Ontario. Guy loves the Buds. Mm-hmm. They're just not at the games because they're overpriced.
That's a big part of it.
End of rant. But I love that we got two
100%
guys. They're on board. We talked about Bateman in Chicago. Mm-hmm. He didn't know what was going on. He robbed the ball from his own team. That's the difference.
And Bartman, that's the thing.
Bartman,
like
not Bateman, excuse me.
Alou kind of stomped around, and then they lost the series, and everything went south. This was different because, they did it against the Dodgers, and it did have a European flair to it where you see, right, with soccer rivalries.
Dude pulled his glove open. The other guy was holding his hand. Marcy, tell me that's not the funniest thing I've ever seen. Welcome to New York.
It was a wild scene.
And it was Gronk's buddy. It had to be Gronk's buddy.
Look at him afterwards. The smile after, too. Guy couldn't be more proud.
I know, he is so horny right now to rip this guy's glove open.
Look at this.
The best was when he was explaining to the security guard, trying to say, I didn't do anything.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, but the guy doesn't even know where he is. He's had 50 beer. He's had 50 beer. That's why. He's loaded out of his tree.
Oh, yes, Noodles. But
you would like to see more of that for Leaf games, though. I mean, it's not possible, and there is a line that you want to draw, but Yankee Stadium is not cheap to get into. Like the World Series, this is the thing about, and it's certain cities have that type of money available, right? Even for people that are going to be rowdy. But there's no pricing out New York because there's so many people that just have money or access to tickets. And Yankee Stadium's still nuts. And those tickets would have been thousands of dollars last night.
Yes,
thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's just, it's the nature of the city. It's a gritty, blue-collar town. Even if you're there in a suit, you better be ready to throw beer on somebody or yell and scream.
Another quick one, Hayes. I remember playing at Oklahoma State, and this was my first experience with fans because obviously Canadian high school football, not a lot of fans there. Their stadium is so close to the benches. I think it's Boone Pickens Stadium. We're playing Oklahoma State. We're getting drilled. My tight end coach sits us all down, and he's trying to figure out which one of us was in that blows up a play. The place is electric. A guy leans his head over about 2 feet from the bench and screams, "It was me, coach! I was in there!" I'm 18, 19 years old. I got to hold in laughter. Again, I see that stuff, and maybe that's a little too far, but I think that as a pro athlete, like going into somebody else's building where the entire stadium is on board, tuned into the game, listening, trying everything they can is the coolest thing of all time. So maybe touching the players too far, but that was my one thing. I heard you boys talking about. I just want to get that off my chest.
Well, listen, again, there is a line. I think the guys, I don't know, like they were clearly pretty oiled, and then it became a big thing.
Couple booze bags.
Yeah, like they were fired up. But then again, in New York, people were loving them. People were loving them because it was against the Dodgers, and that's an important stipulation, that it was against the opponent. But I guess that happened with Ken Pagan. Again, Pagan, it was different because he threw something onto the field, but he's throwing it at the opponents.
Yeah.
He didn't throw it at the Blue Jays. But it's a different city up here. We're a different country, Luke. Like, you know that. You're Canadian. You've lived in the States. You've worked in the States. Like, the Americans they operate differently.
Carnage.
Yeah, with sports in particular.
It's carnage.
It's just crazy.
Yes.
How people show up and live and eat and breathe it and just want to fight on behalf of their team and their city and the fan base. And that's just not how it works up here. But New York can't sleep because now you got the Jets tonight. And the Jets have an opportunity to lift up the spirits for New York sports fans. I don't see it happening.
Good, because Hayes, I'm telling you right now, if you take the Jets -2.5, we got to extend this segment, and we're going to replay your Dak Prescott comment, and you and me are going back to war.
Well, listen, this is separate from that because, every game is a little bit different. But I thought the Jets were going to win last week. They didn't. I thought against the Steelers the week before, we took the Jets. Hayes and Bo were on the Jets, and the thought process was they couldn't possibly start 2-5. No chance they could screw this up. They were up 15-6 in that game. They lost 37-15. The logic would suggest the Jets will screw this up tonight. And I know the books, a lot of money's coming in on Houston, yet the line keeps moving the other way. It's not. It's Jets -2.5.
It is.
Like it's up to Jets -2.5. And listen, I think Houston at 6-2. They don't scream 6-2 the way they've been playing. I don't think their line has been great. They have injuries, obviously with Diggs and Collins. Yet they have found a way to win basically all year, and the Jets have found a way to lose all year. And sometimes it's that simple. It's not as deep as win rates and analytics and stats. It's this team is well coached and they have a winning culture, and the other team is poorly coached and they have a losing culture, and that's what's colliding tonight in New York.
So you're going with the Texans?
Yes, taking the Texans.
Oh,
let's go.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we're on Houston.
Why were you opposite? Were you guys?
Yeah, they
trying
think the
to get
Jets
him?
are going to win.
Yeah, I do.
Explain to me why you think New York is – why this team out of nowhere, when you saw what you saw last week and the week before and the week before and the week before,
Okay.
why
Even
tonight?
though I am your party, I would be hard-pressed to sit here and let you talk about how good Aaron Rodgers is and how he's going to dominate, because that simply has not happened, Partsy.
For sure, but he has not been as bad as Hayes wants to promote. Statistically, QBR and rating, he's beating Dak Prescott right now. Hayes' guy. Hayes' guy.
Barely.
Anyways, let's keep going here. Okay, and I want to be very clear when I make this point here. Do I think that Aaron Rodgers has played like an all-pro? Absolutely not. But the idea that Bryan Hayes can sit right here 2 days ago and tell him this guy's washed
As a Geppetto.
and that he's done is utterly ridiculous. And you're going to see that tonight. Let's go through some of these games. Denver, they lose 10-9. Okay? Is that a good offensive performance? No. However, do you expect Greg Zuerlein to make a 44-yard field goal, 5 seconds left, to win the game? Yes, you do. It's 44
Accurate.
yards.
Sure.
Okay, let's fast forward. Buffalo, windy night. The guy misses a 32 and a 44-yard field goal. You lose by 3 to the Buffalo Bills, who are considered a contender in the AFC. Was Aaron that terrible that night? No. Was he all-pro? No. He was a mediocre quarterback that night. Did enough, which if his team doesn't let him down, mainly his kicker, to win that game. You look at, we brought up the Dan Orlovsky stat last week. Okay, they lose by 3 to the Patriots. Should have never got there. But you miss a brutal field goal, again, 40 yards, and an extra point. You leave 4 points on the board. So is Aaron playing at a level where, because he can, I still believe he still can, where these things don't matter? No, because they're not playing great on defense, they're not playing great on special teams, and they're playing very, very mediocre on offense. But do I think this guy's washed? No. Why I would take the Jets tonight? And hopefully the bot farmer himself is listening to this so he can clip it, okay, is that first and foremost, Nico Collins, obviously still on IR. Stephon Diggs, done for the year, I believe. You got Tank Dell. I expect Sauce Gardner to be able to handle Tank Dell. So who's next? Dalton Schultz?
Well, Joe Mixon's been maybe outside
Joe
of Derrick
Mixon's
Henry.
been elite.
Best back in the league right now.
Elite. So
outside of
there's your
Henry.
guy. You got Mixon.
And Stroud.
But
Stroud is in
Stroud
his
is
prime
a very
ready
good
to
player.
play.
I don't think he's in his prime. He's in year 2, my guy.
Exactly. So there you go. He's not even in his prime.
Yeah.
And he's still rocking.
But on the flip side here, look at this matchup. The Texans' run defense, yards per carry, is in the, I believe, second worst, third worst in the league right now, which that's the weakest part of the Jets' offense. Their run game, atrocious, real bad. So you got bad on bad. And the flip side, you've got Aaron versus, I believe, the Jets' defense pass completion-wise is either 1 or 2, best in the league. So I sit here and I say, if Aaron, in a short week, should be able to at least get completion percentages, let's call it 60, 65%, to Devontae Adams, who's now going into game 3, to Garrett Willson. I don't know who number 3 is. Alan Lazard's out, but it's going to be either Mike Williams or Conklin. I think this guy does enough to win this game. The issue is going to be, I don't even think he's playing, but whoever their kicker is, can he make these kicks? That's going to be the issue. I think that you got to roll with the guy who'll make a 44-yard field goal. I think the Jets win tonight.
Yeah.
I do.
And listen, if he makes a couple of kicks and they're 4-4,
Greg
it
the
sounds
leg.
different. It
Greg
feels
the leg's
different.
been an abomination.
Dude, is he even playing?
If
honestly,
he makes a couple kicks, they're 4-4, they're in the playoff, and we're sitting here going, we've seen good moments from Aaron, we've seen bad. The bad was Minnesota. That first quarter, especially Minnesota,
he was awful.
the worst I've seen. Yeah. But again, then we want to throw these stats out.
Second half, not so good.
Pittsburgh, second half, not so good. But that being said, they had a shot to go ahead with a field goal, I believe go up 2 scores, missed that field goal. They then have an interception that hits Garrett Willson in the chest, pops in the air, and you're in territory. Russ finishes the game strong, and you get blown out. That game was not as ugly as it looked on paper.
You think if the Jets win, Aaron Rodgers looks in the camera and says, "Don't count us out"?
Yes, he'll say something stupid.
Yeah,
of course, because and I don't know if we can.
for
This
sure.
is what gets crazy, and this is why I actually find it fun, and I kind of hope they do win because I do like talking about it. I think it's. If we can get the Jets,
I can't wait for this game tonight.
We
I
get
love
the Jets
watching the Jets
schedule.
play.
The Jets schedule after this is it's an abomination.
Of course it is, but
It's a
that's
joke.
That's a two-way street. When you're a bad team, the other bad team says, "Thankfully, we're playing the Jets." Like it goes
Listen,
both ways. When
I
you're 2 and
agree,
6.
but my point is they get a win against the 6-2 Texans. You cannot sit here and tell me that this team is done. Are they on the outside looking in? 100%. I do not want to make it sound like they have a great shot here, but they will. This is to me their whole season on the line tonight. You lose here, they're done. You win, you got a 10% chance of making the playoffs.
Okay, so here's the other side of the coin, though. If they lose tonight,
Done.
Is now the arrows and everything's pointed at Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
It's even more of his legacy. It's even more because basically if they lose in a way that kind of how they've lost. Now it was the kicker's fault, but Rodgers hasn't looked great. Has anything changed? Did they bring in another kicker? Did they do anything since?
I think they put Zerline on IR, but don't quote me on that. The infamous IR. I saw Alan Lazard is now on IR, but again, to me, I know this guy has been great, but Lazard is a 3 versus Mike Williams is a 3. Like your 2 main guys are Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. Your number 3 receiver should not have a huge effect on the game.
Crazy to think, Partsy, that the one thing that they did that might cost them their season is firing the coach.
It's
right.
To me, the worst decision, the thing that's getting lost in all of this, because Aaron is so strange. The interviews, like today or yesterday, the cayenne pepper and water. I don't know if you saw this. The interview afterwards with the darkness quote, like he's Bane out of Batman. It's ridiculous. But you sit here.
What's he doing with cayenne and water parts, besides blowing out his undershorts?
Apparently, he said it's the fountain of youth. We got to get this up.
Yeah,
Boys,
it's so stupid.
I'm not making this up.
It's so stupid that it's almost unbelievable.
The Bob Saleh firing has been awful.
Stupid.
And the
that's
weird
my
thing,
point.
Yes, Hayes. And the weird thing about that was I sit here and I say, what did you hope to gain from firing Robert Saleh? I can tell you from firsthand experience, because he was our defensive quality control guy in Seattle the year we won it. The man is a leader of men. The players rally for him. We had him in Seattle. He goes to San Fran. That San Fran defense, when he was their coordinator, was elite, and every guy was frothing at the mouth. He's a guy that dudes want to play for. It's a huge thing in this league. Now you can, the leader of the team, just to promote the defensive coordinator, defensive coach or defensive coach, it's utterly ridiculous. And now the defense, since him leaving, has looked very below average, which is supposed to be the best part of the team.
And that's why they're going to lose, because they have Jeff Saturday running the program here effectively. You fire a coach this early into the season, it's panic. You have no backup plan. Now they've got Elbridge is their head coach and defensive coordinator, like you just stated.
Too much on his plate.
So he's got way too much on his plate.
Comes out of the blue as well.
Doesn't know how to operate. He doesn't know how to run. How you use timeouts. That's been a disaster. How you react to bad penalties. How you read offensive issues as the head coach, which he has to be included in. It's never anything he's done before. And furthermore, he's got a guy in Aaron Rodgers that has way too much of an ego to allow a game plan to be executed. And that's what's going to happen tonight. You just said it. The Texans are asking you to run the ball. Run the ball. Aaron won't allow it to happen.
I don't know if they have the ability to run, Hayes.
Well, that's another thing. Brees Hall is supposed
he would actually want to run the ball. I just don't think they're strong enough up front.
I don't think Rodgers would allow it anyway, Luke. That's the point, is he knows this is a must-win, which means he's got to do it. That's how he's going to operate tonight. He'll be slinging. He'll be calling audibles.
Can we do a small side bet? If Aaron throws for 280 tonight and the Jets win, you have to come on this show tomorrow and apologize for saying that you would take Dak Prescott over Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not changing my mind on that after one game. I'm not. There's no way I'm changing my mind on that.
Are you watching Dak play football right now?
It has been ugly.
Hey, no.
It's been ugly. He is in his prime.
Farmers.
Listen, I don't want to be painted as an apologist for Dak Prescott. I've buried this guy. I wouldn't have signed him to the extension. I said that. I would wait until he actually had playoff performances. But in the regular season in 2024, Rodgers, it's not just the way he plays, it's the way he operates. Like, that is a rudderless ship now with Saleh not there, and the guy who's taken over the captain's hat is Rodgers. That's not good. That's not going to go well. It's not going to work long term. And I think the Cowboys would play more for Dak than the Jets will play for Rodgers. Because I think they look at him like he's out on his own island doing his interviews and drinking his pepper. And
do the Jets win 8 games this year?
As of now, I think that's hard to say yes.
I think they get to 8.
They're 2-6.
They're 3-6 after tonight.
They might be
3 back. So
they're
like you guys
a
will be in this game
ahead of the Carolina Panthers right now, and it's almost November.
Again,
Fact.
I agree. They've lost some very bad games that they should have won. I'm not disagreeing with that, but tonight is their season is on the line tonight.
Yeah, I think it was on the line last week. And
the most must-win of all time.
On a side note, did you see how Richardson came out and he said, "I haven't talked to the coach yet. I don't know why he's not playing me."
Bizarre.
Dude.
And even that, like anytime there was a big decision like that, somebody tells you before you go to the media. Like, it's a really weird, and every team I've ever been on.
But for someone to be that stupid not to understand after doing that, you're going to be just basically banished from the team. You're a moron if you didn't think that was going to happen.
Correct. And starting the game 2 for 15 with a touchdown and a pick, not even if you came out when you were tired, like, that's hard to do in this league. Like, it's hard to throw 13 incompletions when it's like, okay, we're just going to run a quick slant here or a wide receiver screen or a 5-yard. Like, it's hard to go 2 for 15 when you have an NFL coach calling the plays.
Right. Well, Anthony Richardson did it, and now he's sitting, and Joe Flacco's stepping in. And there's another team in the AFC the Jets are chasing, man. You know, I look at the division. The Bills are going to cruise to the AFC East.
Totally.
The question is who's going to finish in second. If Tua's healthy and can play, I still think Miami can win as many games as the Jets.
So it's crazy, Hayes, because on paper you would say yes, but like the Dolphins are, to me, in the same category as the Jets right now, you know, for different reasons. But it's like, okay, you get Tua back, you got Tyreek, you got Waddle, you know, Mostert, Achane, that whole dominant backfield. They got a shot to right the ship last week against Arizona. And I don't care what anybody says. Arizona is not that. They're a very mediocre team. And you come out here and blow a huge lead, and now you're also sitting at 2-6? To me, that was another just brutal one. Again, I think 9 does it, but they've got to rip off a lot of wins in a row here, Miami.
Yep.
Aren't you afraid of, I don't want to see Tua play. Like, honestly, I'm sorry. Like, isn't it just a matter of when? It's not if.
He's playing, man. I hear you, though.
But
I hear you.
This guy's going to get rocked at some point again, and it's not going to be good. Like, I don't know. It's his choice to play. I get it. I respect it, but it's not like it's almost you're scared watching. Like you're
at the end of the day, Noodles. I think Miami, Luke, you've talked about it before. They would cover their ass where somebody medically, obviously in the profession, said you're good to play if you want to play.
Yeah,
and that's all he's got in his life is being a baller, and he wants the ball, and he's going to take the chances. That's what it comes down to.
I get it. I think he puts himself in a bad situation sometimes, and I don't know. You tell me, Luke.
Noodles. What I wonder too is, even from an offensive coordinator standpoint, I believe it's Frank Smith over there, and Darrell Bevel is the quarterbacks guy, and he was our OC in Seattle for all the years I was there. And, does that change how you script the game, what you install? Like, from an X and O standpoint, is Bev and Frank Smith sitting there going, okay, we'd like a 6-man protection here, but Tua's got to know if this team brings a 7th, they're in cover 0, we got to get the ball out, and he's going to take a hit. So, generally speaking, when we would face cover 0, which is few and far between, but again, this is from Bev, who's there, and Russ was great at the cover 0 stuff. So they're bringing 7, and everyone's in man coverage, no safety help. That's what I mean by cover 0. We would basically say, hey, if you see it, call the tight end in. If you got it back, sure, then you're 7-on-7. But sometimes you miss that. If there's a free runner, the ball has to get out before, the situation occurs where you get sacked. But 9 times out of 10, you are still going to take a hit even if the ball gets out. They're bringing everybody. If one guy's a little off, slide steps off, someone's getting through, you got to sit in there. We have general checks. Again, I would assume they do similar stuff because same sort of coach there. And it's go deep because that's where they're vulnerable, but, expect to throw it and get hit in the chin. And my question is, if you're Darrell Bevel or, again, the OC, I believe is Frank Smith, are you still sitting here taking that risk?
Right.
That's where my head goes from a coaching staff because I think O-Dog's right. You can't tell the guy. It's his choice.
Yeah.
I mean, that interview when he says, are you going to wear the Guardian? Or someone asked him, are you going to wear the Guardian cap?
Absolutely
and he goes,
not.
Nope.
Not doing it, man.
Why not? Personal choice.
He's not going to be a trailblazer, man. That ain't happening. He wants to be just like everyone else.
Again, I do wonder, and especially because the drop-off, you look at it, go back to Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco comes in, there's a big argument that the team is better. Deshaun Watson, clearly they're better with Jameis Winston. Tua goes down, they became the worst team in the NFL. And Tyreek Hill was nowhere to be found. So It's interesting from a play calling standpoint. I would love to know kind of if they're adjusting anything or just saying, hey, we got to do what we got to do.
Well, they're in a hole, man. Just like the Jets. 2-6 Jets, 6-2 Houston. Hayes and Bro lock it in. We're on the Texans taking the points, plus 2.5.
We go +3 with the pick Sunday at 1 p.m. This thing's going to get ugly quick.
All right.
I mean, where's Al's bro been?
Al's
he got a
brothers,
1-point lead. He's disappeared.
He's got bigger and better things to do. He's farming up material and information for this weekend.
Say no.
Geppetto bought farmers.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Say no, say no, say no, say no, say no.
There's Luke Willson. Oh, and the O-Dog off to do some panel work. All right, Leafs Kraken tonight, Thursday nighter. Houston taking on the Jets. You can watch it all on TSN tonight. What a night it was in New York last night. That World Series, even though it was only 5 games, incredibly memorable because of the way Game 1 went down with Freddie Freeman walking off.
Yeah.
And then last night, choke job of the Yankees. I don't think there's any other way to put it. And the Dodgers, who are probably the best team in baseball all year, they fulfilled the prophecy. Shohei Ohtani arrives, and he wins a World Series. And a man that was in the building last night joins us. Here's former MLBer. You see him on the MLB Network, among other spots. Here's Ryan Spilborghs. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. What was that like at Yankee Stadium last night? It looked like it was completely bedlam from basically first pitch.
Yeah, it was bananas. So Game 4, it felt like a funeral. It felt like you were going to watch the Yankees funeral because, the likelihood that they got swept by the Dodgers was actually, historically like a high probability. And that Game 4, I think there was a bit of a, false sense of hope for the Yankees. It was a great game for them because they ended up scoring 11 runs, but they did it against, the Dodgers' weaker pitching. It was like don't want to call them the last guys on the roster, but the guys that haven't pitched much. And then for Game 5, and when you got to the stadium, it was completely different dynamic than it was the night before. Like there was literal hope. You could feel it. You could sense it. Like the crowd was nuts before the game started. You had Garrett Cole on the mound. You had their ace. and it felt like there was a legitimate chance for something that has never been done before. There's never been a team in the World Series that was down 3-0 to win a World Series, let alone push a game 6. So it felt like it could happen, and I wouldn't call the 5th inning a choke job, but I mean, like at the end of it, the Yankees over 5 games, they were outplayed. Just like so many of the small, important details that the Dodgers do, the Yankees didn't. And over time, it just catches up with you. And I think ultimately, watching the Yankees self-destruct in that 5th inning, it just highlighted what was already issues throughout the year. They weren't an elite defense. And then, the play at first base where Garrett Cole doesn't cover, just a cardinal sin. But also, I've seen that happen, guys. Like, I legit have seen that. Bases loaded, nobody out. You get the first 2 guys out. You get 2 punch-outs, and then pitchers let down their guard. And then you see these crazy plays, and that's exactly what happened.
So Ryan, just to follow up on that, you mentioned the 5th inning. On our station, we have what's called a TSN turning point. Obviously, that was the turning point of the game, of the series, all of that. But if you had to pinpoint it, was it the misplay, the error by Judge? Was it the Garrett Cole? Was it just a combination of all of that? Or if you had to just circle one mistake made in that 5th and say that was either the beginning or that's the cause of it, is it as simple to just say Judge didn't catch the ball or Cole let his guard down?
I think the easiest one is Judge not catching a ball. That was a routine. I mean, a sinking liner is probably the hardest line drive for an outfielder, especially when it has a little bit of a knuckle, just because you have to run through it. And Judgey was trying to catch and throw at the same motion. So he was anticipating throwing behind Kike Hernandez, and that's all it takes. I mean, and that was the only error Aaron Judge made all year. That was the only one on a play that he's made 1,000 times. So I mean, that's an easy highlight. But Garrett Cole not covering first is just that's what pitchers do. They practice it, basically twice a week, and you spend hours on it during spring training called PFPs, pitcher fielding practice. And you're just like, if the ball's hit to the right side, the pitcher has to go to first. It's a juvenile play. It's a play like little leaguers make, and I think that's the one that stood out. That's the one that stood out the most, was because it was such a routine play, and it was just a normal play. It wasn't it wasn't a knuckling low line drive to center field. It was just a normal get over there, and the inning's over. And the Dodgers don't score.
This was being billed as Ohtani versus Judge. Do you believe we saw that in the World Series?
No, absolutely not. It wasn't even close to that. I think what we saw was a future series, when it's all said and done, that we witnessed 7 or 8 future Hall of Famers in one postseason. But Judge versus Ohtani really didn't play out the way that we wanted it to. I mean, you're kind of hoping both MVPs would look like MVPs, and they both did not. And the craziest part too, like from the Dodgers standpoint, to give you an idea, like Ohtani didn't do much, right? Like, and even at the end of the World Series, it was like he was hurt. But Max Muncy didn't even have a hit. Like, so Ohtani didn't do much, and Max Muncy, their 5-hole hitter, didn't even have a hit, and the Dodgers are still able to win. I think the legacy of Judge now is the one that's in the biggest jeopardy, especially when you think of long-term Hall of Fame legacy, because the numbers in the postseason have historically been bad. And now you add, being so integral to the failures of the Yankees offense, and then you have a defensive miscue in center field. Like, he's in a tough spot, where legacy goes, because I mean, he's in that conversation, being one of the greatest right-handed hitters we've ever seen. But on the big stage, he's been missing.
Yeah, and I think it's even more pronounced because of the team he plays for and the history of their greats, where he's going in Monument Park. He's going to have his plaque out there. But Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle, Jackson, they all won. They're all winners. And Judge didn't take advantage of this with his team. But if he ends up going his whole career as a Yankee and never wins a World Series, that's going to be tough to explain.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part. I mean, he does everything right. He's a great human. He's a great player. He's a great regular season player. And that's the beauty of sports. I mean, you're defined, unfortunately or fortunately, by the biggest moments. Everybody wants to be in a World Series. I was in a World Series. I went 0 for 10. I was like, I hit a ball that almost got, was almost a homer. If I would have hit a World Series homer, even how people would view me in Colorado or nationally, dude, he hit a World Series homer. It changes. So I think it's unfortunate that Judge has been below his standards in the postseason. I also think, how they pitch to him. He's the biggest right-handed hitter you'll ever see, so it's a bigger strike zone. But I don't know if the Yankees get back there. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Yankees get back to the World Series next year. So if that was the one and only shot that Aaron Judge and this Yankees core group get, that's going to tarnish it, right? It's going to tarnish, our thought of being one of the best hitters and possibly, even one of the greatest Yankees that has ever put on a uniform.
Ryan, I mean, this couldn't have been a better, we'll call it storybook season for the Dodgers, but if you look at the way it started, you get Ohtani, but then immediately there's the interpreter, whatever you want to call it, that could have gone very sideways if the investigation, came up with anything, if Ohtani's season gets derailed by it. I mean, that was almost like a fork in the road at the start of the season, and they end up winning. I mean, have anybody put thought to that? Have you ever thought that could have gone sideways and we might not have seen the Dodgers?
Well, I think you would have seen the Dodgers in the postseason, Ohtani or no Ohtani.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you bring a great point when it came to the threat of the greatest player on the planet right now is Shohei Ohtani. He really is, and I don't think there's much of a debate for it. The fact that as a DH, as a Japanese-born player who can go two ways and be elite at both, and then get caught in a scandal with an interpreter, which I believe. I've been in Japanese culture. I've lived a year there. There are, in their culture, if you have a handler, and Ohtani's only focus is to play baseball. There's plenty of examples of baseball players where they have somebody take advantage of them financially and basically ruin them. And so it could have been incredible to lose the greatest player on the planet to a gambling scandal. I'm glad that it didn't happen that way. I'm really glad it didn't happen that way. So look, the Dodgers earned it. They had more days on the IL than any team in baseball. Their best players are better than most teams' best players, and they were out without them. And then when it was all said and done, I think what stood out the most was they played like a unit. Like they legitimately loved each other. They did all the little things. I'll give you one quick example of a little thing. Tommy Edman, to contrast it, when Giancarlo Stanton got thrown out at home plate, Anthony Rizzo was on the on-deck circle. So with Giancarlo Stanton at second, and the ball hit to left, Anthony Rizzo should drop his bat and kind of direct the base runner where to slide. Rizzo did not move from the on-deck circle. The Dodgers, on the other hand, base hit to center field, and Tommy Edman, who's on the third base side, drops his bat, sprints behind home plate, and tells Gavin Lux where to slide. It's those little things that matter, and that's what made the Dodgers a World Series champion.
Yeah, it was quite a series, quite a season for the Dodgers. And after they win the World Series, we immediately roll into the offseason. We're chatting with Ryan Spilborghs, and you're a player. I'm sure you have an appreciation for the Players Association. I'm curious what you made of Juan Soto post-game last night. Within minutes of losing the World Series, going right into business mode, saying no one's got the upper hand. The Yankees certainly don't. Who's going to pay? That's where I'm going. What did you make of that postgame from Juan Soto?
I don't mind it. I mean, look, first off, media is asking him the question. He's not the one bringing it up. So it's like, how do you want him to respond? That I love New York, I don't want to go anywhere else. I think the question kind of puts a player in that corner. They do like that. Those business questions at that time, I don't think is the right time and place. But it's also where you get the player where he's captive to you. So it's not a fair position to be in, right? Like the season's over. You're thinking about World Series and you're being asked about business decisions. That's coming in a couple weeks. So. I don't mind the answer. I don't mind the answer. I also understand the question. So I think you get what you get. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were asked that exact same question, how would you respond, knowing that you're going to be a free agency after your team just lost the World Series?
Yeah, I guess maybe he could have responded with, guys, I'm not getting into it. Don't ask me. Like, you're not wrong, Ryan. He was asked the question, but he was prepared with the answer. Like, for me, it read like Scott Boras was in the corner with cue cards, and the game just ended, and he's like, it's cash time, baby, let's go. And he was ready for it, and he's been ready, and he's entitled to that because he's a free agent now. Do you think he'll return to the Yankees? Do you think he'll go somewhere else? What's your read on Soto?
No idea. And by the way, Garrett Cole responded the exact same way when he was
did.
With,
right after they lost the World Series. Same thing.
No, they won the World Series. They won the World Series in 19. That was when he was with the Astros. I think in that scenario, or no, you're right.
Washington won in 19.
Yeah, to Washington.
Yeah.
I think in that scenario with Soto, it seemed clear that he loved New York. So I think it boils down to the Benjamins. I think it boils down to the largest contract. But I also think there's more to it for a player than just the financial aspect of it. So I don't know. I don't know where he signs. I never know these things. It's usually money talks, but there are examples of players taking less money to go to places where they feel like they can win consistently. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, it's going to be something, man. He's a great player. He had a great season. So did the Yankees, so did the Dodgers. Dodgers ended up winning last night. You were lucky to be there. It was an awesome night, awesome game. Enjoy the offseason. Thank you for doing this, Ryan.
Thanks for having me on.
There's Ryan Spilborghs of MLB Network. And, he's okay. He's a player, man. Players Association, kind of going to war for Soto there.
I know. I understood what he was saying. It's like, okay, you asked the question, he wants to answer it. I agree with you because baseball players are wired differently. Like, they don't seem to wear a lot of emotion. Like they just lost in the World Series. It laid it out. Maybe they never make it back. Maybe he never makes it back. And it's like, yeah, see you later. Like his demeanor, I don't know. Maybe it's the hockey player in me. McDavid didn't go out for the Conn Smythe. You saw the emotion. He was, if you watch that Prime series, he's sitting there, he's broken down, he's crying. These guys are like, tracksuit on, peace, guys. We'll see you in spring training.
See you later. Maybe we won't.
It's a different mentality,
culture.
and I can't compare. I'm not going to, but that's kind of the hockey player in me watching that, going, this guy doesn't. There's no emotion. He's just like, nah, just lost. See you guys later. Yeah, I'm open to anybody.
Who's paying, man?
I don't care. If these guys don't want to pay me, I'm moving on. I'll see you in Oakland or see you wherever.
I'll go anywhere.
That's what kind of hit me. Like, that part hit me when it's so fresh watching other emotion players that have lost in the finals or lost in other situations.
Yep.
And in baseball, it's like, these guys, all right, did Aaron Judge, I didn't see his media afterwards, how was he? I didn't see.
Guys are bent out of shape generally, and it's not that Soto, didn't want to win or whatever, or pull his weight. They are asked the question, and it's a business, and he's entitled. And a part of it, I'm sure, is I don't want to start building up the belief with Yankee fans that I'm coming back 100% if you're not committed to that, and I have an appreciation for that. You don't have to say I love New York, I'm coming back here.
Right.
You could. I think it would have been reasonable to say, guys, I'm not getting into this. I'm heartbroken.
Yeah.
But he was prepared. He was prepared for the questions, and he had an answer. Pierre LeBrun coming up. Jonas will join us ahead of Leafs Kraken tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Thursday nighter tonight. Jets, Texans. You got the Leafs playing tonight. Leafs Kraken. More on that into the next hour. And we're getting real close to showtime here in Toronto. Overdrive's getaway from Tay-Tay's. Your chance to ditch the chaos when Taylor comes to town and go see Travis instead. To enter, visit tsn1050.ca and submit your very own OverDrive theme song today. You can submit lyrics, send an audio recording, or even record a video, and our favorite song will win tickets to see Kansas City take on Buffalo on November 17th. You'll also get a hotel stay and $500 spending cash. Details at tsn1050.ca. That is what we're talking about.
Yes, love it.
Kansas City's been great. The Bills have been great. Houston's been great, 6-2, or at least they played pretty well, 6-2. Jets 2-6. What a battle it's going to be tonight. Hayes and Bro taking the points, plus 2.5 for Houston, and I'm not going to hear the end of it. If Rodgers goes 35 for 39, 3 touchdowns, 350 in the air, and they win 41-10, it's going to get loud.
And he might.
And he might. He's more than capable of doing that. Of course he is. And the Jets, they have talent. They just have not put it together. So more on that into the next hour, including our same-game parlay for the game tonight, courtesy of FanDuel, and Leafs Kraken talk into the final hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.